Have you ever had the feeling that someone around you doesn't just dislike you, but seems to harbor a deep, ingrained hatred toward you? This disdain isn't always obvious. Sometimes it shows up in subtle gestures, venomous looks, or small manipulations disguised as good intentions. If someone behaves this way, they might be a true viper, a snake hidden in the grass, waiting for the right moment to strike. But what drives this kind of behavior? Carl Jung teaches us that the human psyche is a battlefield between light and shadow. Often, what we hate in others is nothing more than a distorted reflection of what we deny in ourselves. This is the essence of psychological projection. Instead of recognizing our own flaws or insecurities, we project them onto someone else, creating an imaginary enemy that embodies everything we refuse to see within ourselves. But how do you identify a viper who truly hates you? There are clear signs. This person might constantly downplay your achievements, cast doubt on your intentions, or even try to isolate you socially. In many cases, the hatred isn't about something you did, but about what you represent. Maybe your authenticity unsettles them. Maybe your confidence triggers deep-seated insecurities. Or maybe your very presence reminds them of everything they wish they could be, but can't. Jung also speaks about the collective shadow, that dark part of the psyche that doesn't belong to a single individual, but to an entire group. In toxic societies or social circles, hatred can be encouraged as a means of exclusion, a way to strengthen the group's identity against a common enemy. Anyone who has been the target of malicious gossip, defamation, or manipulation knows exactly how this works in practice. The viper's hostility may simply be a reflection of a larger system that fuels it. But here's the crucial point. The true nature of this hatred has nothing to do with you and everything to do with the viper. The more someone hates you for no apparent reason, the more they are at war with themselves. Your success might highlight their failures. Your happiness might remind them of their frustrations. Your mere existence might be an uncomfortable mirror, reflecting parts of themselves they wish they could erase. The question now is, how do you deal with this? Ignore it? Confront it? Or is there something deeper we can learn by recognizing the presence of a viper in our lives? The way we deal with a viper says much more about us than it does about them. It's easy to fall into the trap of reactivity, allowing someone else's hatred to awaken our own shadow. Jung teaches us that when we project our anger onto the enemy, we become exactly what we reject. The real challenge, then, isn't to destroy the viper, but to understand what their presence awakens within us. Often, our first reaction upon realizing someone hates us is to confront them. But a viper rarely plays fair. They operate in the shadows, manipulate, distort, and make others question your version of events. Confronting them can be like adding fuel to the fire. They might use it against you, playing the victim or reinforcing their narrative that you are the problem. Jung would warn us about a crucial detail. Every external battle is also an internal one. By engaging in the viper's game, you not only waste unnecessary emotional energy, but also risk becoming what you despise. Does this mean we should completely ignore them? Not always. There are times when setting boundaries is necessary, especially when hostility crosses the line of what's tolerable. But the key is to do so strategically, without letting their hatred dictate your actions. If there's one thing a viper hates, it's realizing their poison has no effect. Many of these people thrive on the validation they get from knowing they can shake you. If you respond with anger, outrage, or fear, you're feeding the destructive energy they seek to create. True strength lies in conscious indifference, not the kind that comes from weakness, but the kind rooted in the certainty that they have no power over your life. It's the classic kill them with silence approach. But this indifference can't be superficial. It has to be internal, genuine. When you truly don't care, the game ends. Jung would call this individuation, the process of becoming whole and independent, free from the need for external validation. The greatest freedom we can achieve is not needing anyone's approval, and, consequently, not being affected by anyone's hatred. Now comes the hardest part. What if, instead of just rejecting the viper, we tried to understand them. This doesn't mean accepting abuse or submitting to someone else's malice, but recognizing that hatred stems from pain. The viper hates you because, on some level, they hate themselves. They project their pain onto the world because they don't know how to handle it internally. Of course, this doesn't mean we should try to save them. Many don't even want to be saved. But this understanding can keep us from being contaminated by the same destructive energy. In the end, the best response to hatred might simply be to move on without carrying the weight of resentment. After all, the greatest punishment for a viper isn't revenge, it's your genuine happiness. Here's an uncomfortable but necessary provocation. What if, in some way, we also have a bit of that viper inside us? Jung said that everything that irritates us in others can lead to a deeper understanding of ourselves. If a viper's presence affects us so much, maybe it's triggering an internal wound we haven't faced yet. The unwarranted hatred we receive could be a mirror, reflecting insecurities we try to hide. Deep down, are we afraid we're not good enough? Does their criticism hit a nerve we secretly already doubt about ourselves? Or have we, at some point, unknowingly been the viper in someone else's life? This kind of reflection isn't about justifying someone else's destructive behavior, but recognizing that every relationship, even the toxic ones, can teach us something about our own psyche. Individuation, according to Jung, doesn't come from avoiding darkness, but from consciously recognizing and integrating it. If we realize that a viper unsettles us because they activate our own shadows, then the solution is to look inward. By becoming more emotionally secure, autonomous, and whole, the viper loses their power. They stop being a threat and become just another character in the theater of life. That said, not every viper is worth understanding or dealing with. Some people are truly destructive and have no interest in change. In those cases, the best decision may simply be to walk away. Jung spoke about the importance of consciously choosing the people we connect with. Relationships filled with envy, manipulation, and disrespect don't need to be maintained out of loyalty, fear, or social obligation. Cutting ties isn't a sign of weakness, but of emotional intelligence. However, the way we cut ties matters. The mistake many people make when trying to rid themselves of a viper is doing so explosively, through heated arguments and dramatic confrontations. That only fuels the drama and gives them more material to twist the narrative. The best way to leave a toxic relationship is with calm and strategy. Gradually reducing contact, avoiding emotional reactions, and focusing your energy on healthier relationships can be the most effective approach. At the end of the day, the best way to neutralize a viper isn't to attack them, fear them, or try to change them. It's simply not allowing them to have any power over your mind or emotions. If someone hates you for no reason, that says more about them than it does about you. If they try to tear you down, it's because, in some way, you already represent something greater than they'd like to admit. The real victory isn't in defeating the viper, it's in living such a full life that their existence becomes irrelevant to you, and, if possible, learning from their presence. After all, as Jung teaches us, even the darkest aspects of our lives have something to teach us if we have the courage to face them. Enjoyed the video? Then go ahead and leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on future content. Here, we dive deep into the human mind, no sugarcoating. Now tell me in the comments, have you ever identified a viper in your life? How did you handle that person? Let's share experiences and learn together.